Hello, and thank you very much for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News website. Got another of our updates on precious metals and base metals that I think are going to do well. Recently, I did a show that I made a timely call on the price of the US dollar, looking like it had topped at over 109. Was then coming off. I'm talking about the US dollar index. And today it's down again. It's now under 106. My basic argument, or it's almost at 105 on the index. And my basic argument was that it looked to me like not only was the US dollar topping, and rolling over, but it was also indicating that things should get a lot better for the price of gold. And since then, we've seen in a very short period of time, gold has gone from 1,700 in a few short trading sessions. Today, it's at 1,787, and it's moved up quite significantly. And what I thought was happening is that it looks like the US dollar is indicating that the moves by the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates are probably long in the tooth and about to end in the not too distant future. And that, makes a lot of sense to me, because I think that the Fed is playing a very dangerous game right here, in that if they raise interest rates much more, they're going to force the US economy into a very significant recession. And if they do that, then the next moves by the Federal Reserve will be to lower interest rates. They've been trying to fight inflation in a couple of ways. One was to raise interest rates. The other was that they announced that they were going to start getting rid of some of their balance sheet. That hasn't happened. So they talked about two weapons to fight inflation. They've only been able to use one. And, that one is very troublesome for the US economy, which is carrying a lot of debt. Not just the government, but also the consumers. And so these moves by the Fed are creating some very significant slowdown in the economy. The last GDP numbers indicated that the US economy is now in recession. Some of these famed economists that usually talk about these data points that indicate a recession are now saying, "Oh, it's not a recession." I think that this recession is just getting started, and as more troublesome economic news comes out, which we're seeing a lot of, they'll have to stop raising interest rates, and I think that's exactly what the US dollar is indicating. And the optimism that's recently come into the price of gold is very encouraging, and I just think that it's a early days of a big rally for the price of gold. So today I wanted to talk about some gold stocks. Several of the gold stocks that I talked about in that same report have gone up significantly more than the price of gold. That's a trend that I think we'll see continue, because these gold stocks were dramatically oversold. And so I think any bullish action in the price of gold is even more bullish for certain gold stocks. And I've got a bunch to talk about, so I'm going to get onto it. One of the regions that I'm really positive on really bullish on is the Battle Mountain Eureka trend in Nevada. This trend is, chock-a-block full of big mines, and that's a good place to look for new mines. Now, another good place to look for new mines is where there's been past production. especially when it was done a long time ago and things have changed quite dramatically in the ability to get gold out of the ground. And the next four companies that I'm going to talk about are all have past production on their properties, which, that's a good place to look for new mines. And especially in such a prolific trend as the Battle Mountain Eureka trend. The leader in that area is, for me, i-80 Gold. They recently have put out a couple of news releases about their Ruby Deeps discovery. And what they're finding there are very thick intersections of high-grade gold. That is very hard to find in the gold exploration business. I think Ruby Deeps is going to become one of the most important discoveries and potential mines in Nevada in a number of years. And not only does i-80 Gold have their Ruby Deeps discovery, which, by the way, has the potential to find other deposits in the area on their claims, they've also got the Granite Creek project. And Granite Creek has been kicking out a lot of high-grade intersections. And as they go deeper, it's widening and getting higher grade. I think this company has two world-class deposits on their hands that they're doing drilling into and actually starting the underground workings to put them into production. There's a famous analysis done by Pierre Lassonde, who is one of the most famous gold investors. He called it the Lassonde curve. And he talks about there being a big run up in the prices when they make the discovery. Then there's a big lull called the development discount window. And then when they pop up, then they have a second big move, which is when they bring those projects into production. What makes these the Granite Creek and the Ruby Deeps projects so impressive is that they can narrow that development discount window that usually takes 7 to 10 years. They can narrow it down to maybe a year or so to get these or get one of the two in production and not that long after the other. So that's a very special situation. And then they've got other projects that they're making news on that look quite impressive as well. They've got a portfolio of assets that I think will turn them into a 200 to 500,000 ounce gold producer in the next few years. And companies like that have in Nevada that are high margin projects have multi-billion-dollar valuations. Yet this company still has well under $1 billion valuation. So I think that this company, because of the quality of their assets, is a cornerstone holding for those that want to be exposed to gold. I think you can put your money into that and continue putting money into that, and you can watch that money grow rapidly in a bull market. And as the company puts out more news, they're drilling aggressively. They're going to have a great news flow, and that news flow from exploration is going to lead them to narrowing that Lassonde curve development discount window and get things into production. So i-80 Gold, IAU on the Toronto Exchange and IAUX on the New York Stock Exchange has a tremendous future ahead of them. And I think that you would be very well to own gold, or if you're interested in gold, this is a tremendous way to have exposure to gold. And I think it will far outperform the bullish action that I see for gold. Now, right beside i-80 Gold is a company called Paycore. CORE is their stock symbol. And they have made two exciting discoveries that I think are very undervalued in the price. The company's only been trading for a few short months, and they're trading near their all-time lows. They are right beside I-80 Gold, and they made a discovery of an oxide zone that is right at surface and has very promising grades for an oxide deposit. Those are easy to bring into production. Nevada is one of the best mining jurisdictions in the world. They can be tremendous cash cows. A lot of the mines in Nevada are these oxide deposits. So it's a very exciting near surface discovery, but then they've also been drilling deeper and finding high grade over thick intersections as well that look quite promising. And it looks like they can grow that zone quite significantly, the deeper zone, and the combination of the two puts them in a very good position for growth. And the company currently has a valuation, as I said, trading near its all-time lows, although it has only been trading for a few short months. But $28 million valuation. With where they are in Nevada on this Battle Mountain Eureka trend, with the quality of the drill results that they've had to date, I think that a $28 million valuation is very cheap and offers a lot of growth prospects for those that want to get involved in gold stocks. CORE is their symbol, as I mentioned earlier. Right beside Core is another company that Golden Lake is don't always get my symbols right. GLM, Golden Lake Exploration, has a sub $10 million valuation. It's a $6 million valuation. These guys, actually, all three of these companies are sponsors of my website. And why I invited Golden Lake to be a sponsor of my website was because of how close they are to I-80 and Paycor. And then as you look closer into their projects, there has been a lot of historical mining on this project in a number of decades ago. And as I said, that's a great place to look for new mines. Now, they've also done some drilling that I think has been underappreciated. They've hit some nice intersections of high grade in more than one drill hole. And I think that this whole area around I-80, the Eureka part of the Battle Mountain Eureka trend, is going to heat up a lot. And as it heats up, these guys have the chance to be a tremendous performer because they're starting at such a low base of $6 million valuation, trading right around its 52-week low. They have results coming out. They're getting ready to start drilling again. And I think this is very cheap for where they are and what they're doing and what they've found to date and what's been done in the past. And so I think that this gives investors in gold stocks a tremendous opportunity for growth. Timberline Minerals is the next one I want to talk about. And Timberline is right beside Golden Lake. So here you've got a chain of pearls, if you will. You've got I-80 Gold. You've got Paycor right beside them. Then you've got Golden Lake right beside them. And then you've got Timberline right beside them. And what makes the Timberline story very interesting is they've already got a resource on their property. They've got some tremendously good-looking geophysical anomalies. They've done some drilling that has given them a lot of excitement. And yet they only have a $38 million valuation. They're drilling right now. And at any time now, I think that they could start putting out assay results and probably have a great news flow going forward between here and the end of the year, which is when I think that we're going to see between now and then, I think we're going to see a much stronger market for gold stocks. And so TBR is their symbol. Timberline Resources is the name of the company. I've done interviews with all of these companies, by the way, and you can go to my website or my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News to find some of those interviews. Timberline, also their stock chart is looking like it's creating a nice bottom and ready to start going up the right side of a cup and handle formation. And I think there's definite catalysts to see that happen. One is the price of gold getting stronger. Secondly, and most importantly, is assay results from their drilling that they've been at for a little while now. So good catalysts and a good story in a great area of Nevada. Those are the four from the Battle Mountain Eureka trend that I'm very bullish on. And Timberline is another one of those. So now I wanted to move on to the Golden Triangle. This is another area where there's been some spectacular mines found in the past. The guys that run P2 Gold, they had found and built the mine at Pretium. Pretium was bought out for a few $1 billion. I originally started covering it when it was down around $2.50. Covered it, recommended it many times. It ended up getting bought out at like $19. The geologist that was, helped find and the guy who helped build it started a new company called P2 Gold. And P2 Gold is currently drilling in Alaska, looking for something like what they found at for Pretium. And I think these guys are going to do it again. And if they do it again, this company only has a $29 million valuation. They're drilling right now. They'll be drilling very aggressively over the next few months. And they have a pretty straightforward exploration model. They're near surface. They're looking for an epithermal veins cluster. As they go deeper, in the model of these epithermal systems, they often find a porphyry below that. There's other kinds of deposits that are found along the way. And I think they're going to deliver a lot of great news. And this is another one that's trading near its 52-week lows with a $29 million valuation. I think P2 Gold is going to do extremely well as they start putting out results from their drilling on their BAM project in the Golden Triangle of northern British Columbia. These guys are, it's not their first rodeo. They've done this before. Before they came to work or before they worked with Pretium, they also worked with a major mining company in silver. And so these guys really know what they're doing. Top-notch team. They've got money in the bank. They're drilling right now. And I expect a lot of good news out of them in the next little while here. And if they are able to deliver what I think they will, 100 to 200 million valuation will be in the cards in the next few months. And currently they have a $29 million valuation. So that's another one that I think you should take a look at. Now, Alaska is another area that I'm very bullish on. I've spent a lot of my career following companies in there. And high gold mining has a very special situation in Alaska. They have a historical deposit there, a resource there that they've recently been able to expand on and increase the quality of the assessment of that. In that they moved most of their resource that was in the inferred category and now is now in the indicated category. And it's 1 million ounces at just about 10 grams per ton of gold. Those aren't easy to find. There's not a lot of those. And what makes it even more exciting is that that deposit can be accessed through tunneling from the side of a mountain and get them easy access to their high-grade mineralization of this 1 million ounces. And those are the kind of things that make highly profitable mines. But in addition to that, they also made an impressive discovery last year at their DC target. They hit a nice thick intersection of extreme high-grade gold, and that got the market all excited. They traded up to $1.80. They're now trading at 89 cents. That often happens in Alaska because you got to wait through the winter months for them to get back in there. They've already drilled 15 holes into this DC target. And when you have those kind of thick intersections of high grade, they're indicative of a big, powerful gold system. And they have encouragement. So they found DC on one side of a mountain. Then you go on the other side of a mountain, and they had some of their highest grade surface samples. And there's a horizon of rock that suggests that these two are part of the same system. And what makes it really interesting is that this is a horizontal system that is easily accessed on the DC side, will also be easily accessed on the Milkbone side. And in fact, as you try to connect those two zones, you can drill angled holes that you don't have to go very deep. Another important factor is that they put a sample preparation lab onto their property. Why this is important is there's been a lot of delays in exploration companies getting their assay results back from the labs. The reason for those delays is that those labs are backed up with sample preparation. Once you get through the sample preparation, the assaying part is going quite smoothly. So they bit the bullet and spent money this year on building their own sample preparation lab, which will give them a rapid returns on their drilling. They've already drilled 15 holes. They've already processed samples and have sent them off. You could be looking at results within 2 or 3 weeks. So mid-August, I think we should start seeing the early drill results from that DC target, and then followed up by Milkbone, then trying to connect the dots, and then expanding on the DC. So they've got a lot of money in the bank, and they're going to be doing a lot of drilling this year. And I think they're going to have a lot of good news out, with the stock trading near its 52-week lows. And by the way, earlier I said that they've got a lot of money in the bank. It's north of $20 million in the bank. And most of that money was raised at much higher prices. So those that are buying in now are actually getting a better deal than the ones that put the big money in for these guys to go drilling. So I think this is another one that's going to do very well. High gold symbol is HIGH. They're in Alaska. They're drilling right now. I expect a lot of news from them. And that's another one that I have high on my list of companies that I expect between here and the end of the year will generate a lot of news and exciting news that will help their valuation quite dramatically. Before I leave the regional plays I talked about Nevada, I talked about British Columbia, I talked about Alaska. Back in February, I interviewed a company called Western Alaska Minerals. WAM is their stock symbol. And they were trading at about $1.22 or $1.20 back when I talked about them on February 22nd. recently they've hit some thick intersections of massive sulfides on their property, and the stock has gone absolutely ballistic. It went from when they announced this, they were down around $1.50. Now they're trading at $5.05. For those that listened to the interview and bought the stock, I think that now is a good time to take some profits. I think they've got a very exciting play here that could see much bigger performance, but they've already got $194 million valuation. After that February 22nd interview, there was plenty of time to buy the stock at under $1.40. So anybody that followed the interview that I did is probably up quite dramatically if they bought. And that's a good time to take some profits. I'm not saying that you should, get rid of all of your position, because I think that this could still be, see a higher valuation. But the assay results aren't even out yet, and they already have $194 million valuation. I think it's a good time to take some profits and let some of your, if you take some profits, you can probably take all your money plus some off the table. And I think that that's a good thing to do at this point in time, considering that the stock has went absolutely parabolic, and parabolic moves generally don't last very long. So I would recommend taking some profits on Western Alaska Minerals. WAM is their stock symbol. They trade on the venture market. Okay, so now I talked about areas that I like. Now I'm going to talk about some styles of gold mineralization that I'm very positive on. I've got 4 companies that I see are drilling into orogenic gold systems. And the characteristics of these kind of geological formations are that these are big cracks in the earth and in very old rocks. And what happens is you have lots of time for the gold-bearing fluids to make their way closer to surface. And what's really exciting about these plays is that when you find an important one, such as the Fosterville mine in Australia, when they got deeper into the system, they found these super high-grade deposits. The Swan Zone was the company maker for Kirkland Lake. They were already a big company when they found this, but it made them into one of the best performing gold mining stocks out there, and ultimately were bought out because of the high profitability of mining the Swan Zone and the zones around it. And so these are very important styles of mineralization. They tend to go very deep. And the group of companies that I found, 3 of the 4 have only been sort of following that near surface stuff. One of them has drilled deeper and found that their high-grade gold mineralization goes from basically surface over 1 kilometer deep. And that's the nature of these kind of deposits. For example, at the Red Lake deposit, they went down below a meter or 1,000 meters, and then they started to hit the jewelry box mineralization that at the time that they were mining that made Gold Corp the lowest cost gold producer in the mining sector. And so, sometimes 1,000 meters to 3,000-4,000 meters is where these things get very exciting. Endurance Gold or Endurance Mining, EDG is their stock symbol. They've found one of these exciting orogenic gold systems, Endurance Gold. And they've drilled the near surface stuff, and they've hit a very large zone of high grade mineralization near surface. And this is indicative of these orogenic gold systems that you get close to surface and you can get these big zones. At Fosterville, they mined that near surface stuff for like 20 years before they got deeper and found the Swan Zone. And the Endurance is now at a very exciting time for one of these orogenic gold systems. First of all, that widespread high-grade gold mineralization near surface is indicative of a powerful, long-lived gold system. And now they're starting to go for the vertical dimension of that mineralization. That's where things get very exciting. In a gold market that's been challenging for a lot of gold stocks, these guys are actually trading near their 52-week high. So they've been bucking the trend based on the drilling results that they've been getting from their project. And I think that they're currently drilling. They've drilled off the near surface stuff. Now they're using what they found in the near surface to chase the vertical extent. And I'm very optimistic that they're going to be able to deliver a lot of good results because, as I said earlier, what you find at surface is often an indicator of the system that brought that to surface. And when you get a widespread mineralization of high-grade gold over a 500-ish meter strike, and there's width to it, and there's multiple intersections, I think they're into one of these exceptional orogenic gold systems that they're now at the juncture where they're starting to chase the depth. That's an exciting part of these kind of systems. I like Endurance. EDG is their symbol. They trade on the Venture Exchange, and they should be having a lot of news out in the coming weeks. They have a very good news flow, and I think that they're going to continue that, and things could get very exciting. Another company that is one of these orogenic systems is Galantas Gold in Ireland. Galantas had historical production near surface in an orogenic system. Yes, it sounds a lot like Fosterville. Interesting fact about Galantas is that the guy who ran Kirkland Lake is also an advisor to Galantas. And Galantas has a very interesting business model in that they are able to bring this project into production, which is happening now. And they're going to use that cash flow to run the company and also start drilling deeper into this orogenic gold system. Now, what makes it interesting is that they are able to go into these underground systems and see the actual rock. And that helps them target and make the discovery of more high-grade gold in these orogenic systems much more predictable. And they are a company that I think is going to generate a lot of news. They currently have a $42 million valuation, only 85 million shares out. This business model that they have to use the cash flow from their near surface production to fund their depth testing, I think is an excellent business model, and the drilling can deliver company-making results. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen. GAL is their stock symbol. I like Galantas a lot, and I think you should take a look at Galantas. Another company that I'm following for their orogenic discovery potential is a company called Sokoman, SIC is their stock symbol. They're a sponsor of my website. I've been following their work to understand the near surface mineralization in an orogenic system. And why that part is so important is that helps them to drill deeper. And, you know, when you start drilling deeper, you want to have a good understanding of the system so that you are able to effectively drill and predict where you're going to hit. And that's what they're doing now, is they're now starting to go after this deeper part of the system. Again, this is similar to what Endurance is doing, and I think they've drilled enough holes in the near surface stuff to be able to target that deeper potential. And in addition to their Moosehead project, which is the one that they've done most of their drilling on, they also have a prospect for lithium. And these are hard rock. This target that we're looking at is a hard rock deposit that the lithium is contained in the pegmatites. They recently put out some drill core pictures that shows that their core is full of pegmatites. And so they have done some previous drilling that hit these pegmatites with exceptional grades. And I think that they've got one of those style of lithium deposits on their hands here. And if you look at the surface expressions, it suggests that they could have a very large area of a pegmatite lithium deposit. And so these guys got a couple of 2-3 good targets on their hands, and a very modest valuation. SIC is their stock symbol. Their current valuation is only 48 million. They are another one that's trading near their 52-week lows. And I think that they could deliver a lot of really good results in the not too distant future. And so I'm quite optimistic about that. Before I leave you, I want to throw a couple of copper stories out at you, because the same fundamental argument for the price of gold getting more bullish also is in play for copper. But copper has that sex appeal, if you will, of the electric car revolution that's happening. In order for that to happen, you need a lot of copper. There's not enough copper development projects, copper mines, copper exploration to feed that demand that's coming from electrical cars. And so I'm going to quickly go through the 4 companies that I'm following for copper. One of them is Bell Copper. BCU is their stock symbol. They're in Arizona. They're in an area where big deposits are found. They've drilled into something that I think could, if they figure out the geology of this system, they could find something very big. BCU is trading right now at a valuation of, just give me a second here, a $28 million valuation. They're down around their 52-week low as well. And they're drilling right now. I think they could deliver some exciting stuff. And BCU is one that I like. Candente Copper. Candente has a top 10 resource of copper in, and they've that makes them top 10 in not only the size but the grade. Those are the kind of things that major mining companies develop into mines. I think that makes them a takeover target. There's already been efforts by one to sort of make some of those kind of moves. And I think ultimately Candente is going to get bought out by a much bigger company. And I think it will be at significantly larger valuation They're currently trading at about a $50 million valuation. And I could easily see that one trading at bought out at 150 to $250 million valuation. So there's a lot of chicken left on that bone, if you will. And Candente DNT is their stock symbol. Now, I've got another one here that's in the early days of making a VMS discovery. It's called York Harbor. YORK is their stock symbol. I did an interview with them a number of months ago. They recently closed off a big financing, and so they're going to be able to really crank up the drilling, and I think they're going to deliver a lot of good results. YORK is their stock symbol. This is another one that is trading at significantly cheaper, almost half price from their 52-week high. They've recently put a bunch of money in the treasury, so that will give them a lot of drilling, and I like their prospect to deliver more. These VMS deposits can tend to get very big, and in this case, high grade, and I like what I see out of York. The final company I'm going to talk about today is 9 Mile Metals. 9 Mile Metals has recently put out results of extreme high grade base metals, copper and zinc in their project. And so far, by the way, it's in New Brunswick. So far, they found the lenses that often come off of these volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits. Don't want to get too geology on you, but these are volcanoes that cause these, their eruptions cause these VMS deposits. They've shown massive sulfides in their lenses, and I think what they're seeing so far is the lenses that are coming off of a much bigger feeder system. As they do geophysics, they're going to be able to target that these magma chambers or vents that cause these lenses to develop. The lenses are thick, 10 meters, and extreme high grade, full of massive sulfides. That indicates to me that that's very positive for the root system that brought those lenses to surface. And when they find, which I think they will, find the magma chambers or vents that cause these lenses, those will also be high grade, but much bigger. And whether they have a series of lenses, which could be quite exciting, or all of those lenses are coming off of a much bigger system, which I think is the case, they only have an $11 million valuation. And if they start showing signs that they've got a magma chamber or a vent of a massive VMS, things will go crazy for this stock, and it will be multiples of their current valuation. And so 9 Mile Metals, NINE is their stock symbol, is another one that I'm very bullish on for their copper and zinc potential. And where you find copper and zinc, you also find gold and silver. So it's a multi-metal kind of discovery that I think is going to get very exciting as they get their geophysics back, they get drilling again. And 9 Mile, although I've talked about them last today, is definitely high on my list for those that are in copper, are interested in copper and zinc. Okay, so I had planned on making this a very short and sweet show, but I had so many good stocks to talk about. And again, I think that the US dollar has topped, that gold and silver and copper are going to get more bullish as the price of the US dollar comes down. It's almost a reverse of the trends you've seen US dollar's been going like this, and copper and gold have been going like this. But now the US dollar seems to be topping, and as it's topping, these are bottoming and starting to get more bullish. And I think you're going to see those trends cross paths, that the US dollar comes down, the price of gold and copper go up. And so I've given you a menu here of some great stocks to look at. On that note, as always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions, and also do your homework. My YouTube channel, I've interviewed all of these companies. So it's a great place for you to go on YouTube. Look for Rocks and Stocks News, and you can listen to the executives talk about these companies, then go to their websites, check out their corporate presentations and all their news releases. I think you'll understand why I'm biased in all of these things, because they're companies. Some of them are sponsors of my website. So, take everything I say with a grain of salt and do your homework. And I think you'll understand why some of these companies are sponsors of my website. Some of them are only companies that I follow. Consider me biased on all of them. And as I said, always do your homework before making any investment decisions. On that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you.